Good evening and welcome. It is 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and bring our working session and briefing into order. 6 o'clock, March the 5th, 2019, Duncanville City Council. So go ahead and get underway. First thing on the agenda is to discuss the agenda items. That would be Mr. Hugno, City Manager, please.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, this evening on your agenda, on the consent agenda, item 4A are the minutes for the February 11th, 2019 joint meeting with Parks Board, February 12th joint meeting with P&Z Commission, and the February 19th regular City Council meeting.
Here's one.
I didn't have any when I came. She printed more.
It must have gone. We had a stack.
It's a popular item.
Obviously, we should shut that. Almost as popular as the capper. Item 4B is a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a continuing disclosure agreement to the Trinity River Authority of Texas. We have a continuing disclosure agreement with TRA. However, they are requesting that we update that. It is a revised CDA in order to meet the requirements, revisions to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Because we are a customer of TRA, their bonds payments, their revenue is based on their customers paying them. Since we are a customer, then they are requiring us to also disclose our financials with them in case there's any kind of issues or not. And it also calls for material disclosures. With us tonight, we do have Allison Mackey, who is the Chief Financial Officer with TRA. She is here, so if you have any questions, she'd be happy to answer them. I just gave you the 50,000-foot level.
Do you have anything to share with us?
Would you like to share anything and explain this better than I did?
You did a good job. It's there's just a rule that's been in place since the mid-90s requiring municipal bond issuers such as TRA to disclose certain financial information annually. And as a customer, an obligated party, we enter into these agreements. And we've had an agreement in place with y'all since 1996. So this is just a revision to that agreement.
Thank you. Item 4C is a resolution adopting the FY19 work plan. Under the council rules of procedures, section 814, the council is required to adopt or develop an annual work plan. Each year we have done that in conjunction with the council retreat several years ago when the council created capstones, and then each year the council has revised those, and from the year retreat is how we develop our work plan. So this past retreat, you did not make any changes and did not really discuss the capstone, so we just kind of left them there. But the work plan is a culmination of things that we've been working on last year, new items that have come out of the discussion with the council throughout the year, as well as at your retreat, and other items that we are hoping to accomplish this coming year. So this work plan is just really for us, for the departments of the organization, to keep track of what we're working on and then provide a report to council. Typically we do that in June as to where we stand on this work plan.
Okay, so you waited so you'll get back with us in June over here?
Right, and then we provide you an update periodically, but in June we typically go through it. Those are all of the items on the consent agenda. On the regular agenda, item 5A, it is an ordinance amending ordinance number 2346. And this is a civil service ordinance that designates our positions within the fire department. We currently have 51 fully funded classified or civil service positions. 4 of those positions are designated as battalion chief positions, with one of those positions having traditionally been the fire marshal. As you know, with Fire Marshal Mike Truesdale retiring, we were looking at different options of how we move forward. We've decided that the best option is to continue with it at the battalion chief level, but what we want to do is to designate it as fire marshal / battalion chief. What that does is it allows us to test under civil service rules, more specifically for fire marshal, for the knowledge and understanding of the fire marshal duties. With it designated the way it is right now as a battalion chief, that a civil service exam would be operational based because the 3 battalion chiefs who oversee the shifts are operational personnel. Whoever took that test would be taking an operational exam and then would be offered the position of fire marshal. By doing it this way, we can test specifically for fire marshal knowledge, and it also then just keeps it clear that that's what that position is, separate testing than from the normal battalion chief test. There's no change in the funding or anything like that. Item 5B is a resolution authorizing approval of a DCEDC grant. This is a facade and architectural improvement incentive grant for Havre Properties, which is a building located at 606 South Park Road.
What's your little text in there? It's have our burgers.
Have our what? Well, I know there's a Have Our Burgers. This is Have Our Properties.
Oh.
I'm sorry. So this is the
Oh,
bigger,
it's your
other
fault.
building. Sorry, did I slur that out? Did not. Have Our Properties. This is in an amount up to 50% of the actual cost, not to exceed $5,767. And this is for, as I said, for a facade and architectural improvement grant. As required, they got 3 bids. And then the lowest bid, this would reimburse them up to 50% of that amount. The EDC did consider this at their February 18th meeting and recommended approval of this.
I didn't drop by that. Where is it?
Well, it's right there by the Shell Station, just south of the Shell Station on Clark, east side of Clark.
There's
Put it back down.
there's a gas station,
Oh,
and there's
okay.
Have Our Burgers, and then there's the car wash.
Yeah.
The Juan Juan.
So that, why'd they name it like the burger place? Same owner?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
yeah.
Same property.
It's the same property.
And but they're not doing anything to have our
It's
burger?
not the burgers, it's
No.
the other
No,
building.
it's the property.
Just the
It's
have our property?
improvement.
Okay.
And item 5C is same property. This is for a paint grant, same conditions. They've got 3 bids, the lowest bid. This will pay up to 70% of the actual cost, in this case not to exceed $3,700. Again, the DCEDC considered this at their February 18th meeting and recommended approval. Item 5D is a resolution authorizing the logo. As you know, we've been working on this for some time. The last time we brought this back, you selected one, requested some minor modifications to that. And that is what you have at your place in the hard copy with the true colors. I believe what y'all had wanted was to make the D a little larger. You stipulated the reds and the blues, and you wanted the star to be a little bit darker gold. I think a little bit yellowish gold. So I think these are capture what y'all had asked for. This resolution then would approve the use of that logo, as well as authorize the city attorney to register the logo and the taglines for trademark purposes.
The D's coming off of the Texas. I don't think we wanted that.
It is, it's white, there's a, if
do
you
see
turn the
it's white.
second page, it kind of shows you how it would look against a dark background.
Right, but there's a dark, we have a lot of paper and things that, did we ever look at how much this is gonna cost to change everything in the city?
Well, no, because what we said was we wouldn't change everything at once. I mean, all
Right,
we do
but-
is probably, and our stationery is all electronic. It's not, we don't print stationery, so things like that. Business cards would be done as we replenish. Logos, decals on vehicles would be done as we replenish those or you know, bring new vehicles online, that we're replacing those. Same with street signs. We replace so many street signs each year. We've held off on that this year until we got a resolution on the logo. So it's really not, there would be some cost, but it's not a huge amount.
I would prefer that the D didn't come off of Texas.
I think if you had that little line in there, it would probably get lost in in the logo itself, because you'd essentially end up with a little sliver in there. I think it would look a little bit odd.
Well, if the D was a little smaller, it could fit and be in the middle, and it wouldn't be coming off of it. Right now, to me, it looks like it's not centered.
And the reason why the consultant did that, Emerson, was because they felt like it softened the lines between the difference between the blue and the red. It just gave a little bit softer look to it than having a real jagged straight line right there, and that's why they.
Well, I've already gotten some calls from some citizens, and you know what they said? This looks like the Republicans and the Democrats are fighting. I didn't think of that. That's what they said, and I said, oh, well,
To me, it's fine the way it is. We need to move on with it, get this thing over with.
well, we don't have to change it, you know.
We've agreed on this one.
Out of the ones that were presented to us, we didn't agree that we had to, you know, that we had to change the one that we had exist.
Tonight, we'll be taking a vote on this one.
Okay, Barry, I'm stating my opinion. Thank you.
Fine.
The next item on the agenda is item 5E, which is a resolution to abolish the Duncanville Senior Advocacy Commission. As we explained previously, the Advocacy Commission was established about 4 years ago. I believe at the time they had a lot of additional applicants for city boards and commissions, and so they developed some ad hoc commissions in order to be able to place everyone on a board. And this was one of the committees that was established. They were established to advise the Parks and Recreation Board on senior needs and senior programs. However, since then, when you had your appointments, made your appointments in the late summer, early fall, there were not enough people to put on that committee. Since then, we do not have enough people to even make a quorum. It is a 9-member board. We have 4 members that are still on the board. And also want to take this opportunity right now to mention as well that Ms. Kim Malone, who in the other memo where we talked about the board appointments, I said that she had resigned from the Senior Advocacy Commission. She had not. That was my mistake. I don't know where I'd gotten that or thought I heard that, but I was wrong. She is not. She's still on the Senior Advocacy Commission, but she recognized that that might go away. So she had offered to be on another board. But I wanted to mention that while we were talking about this board. So there are still 4 people that are on the board, but that is not enough to make a quorum. We've been having trouble before that with that. So what we have looked at and recommend is that we just do away with this commission. The Parks and Recreation Board, in their charge, has responsibility for programming, for parks and recreation programming for all citizens in the city. And so this would essentially go back to the way it was 4 years ago, or before 4 years ago, where the Parks Board has that purview to recommend programming and parks facilities and things like that for all citizens of Duncanville. So that was why we were recommending that this be abolished.
So you mentioned those 4 people, will they transition,
Yeah, well,
put on the board, or they apply?
They can be, or they can, if they want to apply for other boards, they can. Or, I mean, they are aware that this has been discussed. Noel Garcia, who's our senior center director, is here. He's had conversations with that board already, and if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, and I want to add something too.
Okay, hold on.
Well, because I wrote this email to you, and it's not, nothing is written anywhere about what I said. I see my questions are here, but committees are under the Duncanville City Council's purview. And we need to have all information regarding the Share and Care Site Council. The fact that it was implemented incorrectly in the past does not mean or negate our oversight responsibility as a council. We didn't know about this committee. And it says here you have elections.
So the committee was established, to our best knowledge, more than 30 years ago. It is a requirement of the DAAA, the Dallas Area Agency on Aging, because we have a Tier 3 congregate meal program. And they are in their rules, which we provided you a copy.
Where is that? Okay.
And it's page 14 or talks in their rules about the site council, says that each center will have a site council made up of participants to advise it on matters related to meal programs. Site councils must be elected by their peers annually, and DAAA provides training to those site council members every year. So the site council was established by their rules. They do have bylaws that they vote on, but they are elected by the membership of the senior center. And that has been in existence for, as I said, quite a long time.
Yeah, the fact that it's in existence, the thing about it is that people don't, I mean, are these citizens of Duncanville that are on the board?
They are members of the senior center.
Okay, that didn't answer my question. Are they Duncanville citizens? No?
There's not a requirement that they be, it's just there's a requirement that they be members of the senior center. And the
See,
senior
that's-
center is not exclusive to Duncanville residents.
There's no accurate answer over there.
And-
You are correct. The requirement is that they be a member, to serve on site council, that they be a member of the senior center.
And we have members of the senior center that are not citizens of Duncanville.
Absolutely. We have a external and internal. So from the city of Duncanville, there is a membership fee of $15 a year. And then we have external folks that live outside of the Duncanville area. They can also be members. They contribute and pay $20 a year.
Okay.
Well,
And so the four, are they gonna be part of this group, or we don't know that yet, or?
If they are elected, they can be. I mean, if they are members of the senior center and they're elected to the site council, but they're not. Again, we don't appoint anyone to the site council. They're elected by the membership of the senior center.
And the site council falls under parks, or?
no.
They're a separate group. They are set up as a requirement of the DAAA requirements. If you think about them, and the way I look at it, they're kind of like a Friends of the Library group, only they're a Friends of the Senior Center group. They help with the director in providing him input on programming, and they promote the senior center, and they're a liaison between him and the seniors, if you will. They do some fundraising, and they can supplement programming. They have bought some equipment for the senior center as well. So again, the way I look at them, they're like a Friends group.
So
How did
does
they buy
does
equipment?
the DAAA have oversight over them, or who has oversight over them? I guess is what I'm asking.
It is a self-ran organization that I supervise, in addition to DAAA once a year when they come out and do an assessment of how they're doing. They do have responsibilities in having meetings once a month, taking minutes, and then that's turned in annually when they do an assessment of how they're doing. So DAAA, or the state, the city, state, and federal would actually be, it's an umbrella, and then you have all the small entities below that that we report to DAAA, DAAA reports to city, local, state, and federal.
Okay, and how many members?
Members,
On the site council,
Yeah.
there are
Who gave you the name?
five
Five.
people.
I don't.
So I guess the reason I asked is because this other committee, you said they had trouble meeting a quorum. Does this group?
Absolutely not. They meet faithfully every month. They meet
And-
faithfully every month.
And what was the difference between this council or this group and our senior?
Senior advocacy.
Yeah, what was the difference?
There's not a lot of difference between them. And that was part of the reason why we recommended doing away with the Senior Advocacy Commission. I think the Senior Advocacy Commission, again, was established to help advise the park board on senior needs. They were not specific to the senior center. They were, so in some ways, they were really to represent all seniors. Whereas the Share and Care Committee Site Council was set up more for the senior center, and as you said, as members of the senior center. And I think that was probably part of the problem with the Senior Advocacy Commission, is not really having a clear role or understanding what their reason for being was. And I think maybe that was part of why maybe there was they weren't able to really get anything done, or why maybe there wasn't the interest in coming to the meetings as much.
Well, and I guess the reason why I'm asking is because if there are 5 people on this council, and our committee had 9 people, but we have 4 people that are willing to serve. So if it's 5 on this one, why don't we just make our committee a committee of 5? These people are still willing to serve, so they can feel like they're a part. I mean, we've been a vote on this capstone about having the most engaged citizens. Here's an opportunity to let people still be engaged.
And I don't think that they should report to the park board. I think that was Linda Humble setting that up, and a committee should never have been reporting to another committee. They report to the council. So that needs to be taken out from under there. But I know in some of the people that I talked to that were on that board, they felt like they weren't needed. They had no jurisdiction. When they remodeled the center, they weren't asked. And there were some other things that happened. I didn't keep up with all of them. This was over the time. And that's why some of the interest fell off. But if you'll read here in what you've written, it says that the site council is made up of participants to advise it on matters relating to the meals program and center participation. Because really, I don't see how that this organization could set up a group that's over the center, the Senior Citizen Center. That should be citizens of Duncanville.
Well, my concern is, I guess since when I got into the board and commissions, I was on the Multicultural Commission, and when that commission was dissolved, I know it made me feel after being a part of that for so many years. So I'm just thinking about these 4 people that we've picked as a council to be on the advisory commission, and if they're willing to serve, instead of abolishing it, is it too much to just make the membership not be 9 or make it 5 or make it a number where they can still meet and they still can be a contributing factor to things that are happening at the anybody see what I'm saying?
Yes. And take it out from under the Parks Department.
Well,
It should be reporting to Parks.
My concern is we can figure out who they report to, but these people, they want to serve. They want to serve. And again, in a little bit, we're going to talk about having these most engaged citizens. Here's an opportunity for people to stay engaged. And so I'm just trying to figure, if we can't do it, we can't do it, but I'm just asking.
Yeah, we can do it.
Can these individuals become part of the share and care?
Most certainly.
By paying membership?
Yeah, that's.
Well, I think that the fact that they're able to interact and learn what is happening on a day-to-day basis in the center, they can get feedback directly and be engaged with the seniors. As we know, our seniors can sometimes be timid and reserved. So this is an opportunity, if they did join the Share and Care Site Council, that if they attended the meetings, they could be interacting on a daily basis with them or on a monthly basis when they come to meetings.
Is there a limitation to the number of people on the Share and Care Council?
Not to my knowledge, no.
But their bylaws say no more than 7
Or is this-
on the council, or is that the executive? That's the board, okay.
So these people can go under the Share and Care.
But it's like Don was saying, they're gonna have to pay. But if we just keep their committee, they could stay and still serve.
Or it could be a separate committee. They just need to have some authority of their own. They don't need to be under the Parks Department, and they can work.
They're not really under the Parks Department. I mean, it's,
Should be.
again, that we staff them. Noel staffs the Senior Advocacy Commission, but they were just set up, again, as I said, as an advisory to the park board to advocate for senior
seniors.
needs. But again, any seniors, any senior group can go to the park board and advocate for whatever they would like
Right.
to. I mean, that doesn't prohibit anybody from doing that.
But I
So-
think we do need a senior advocacy group that is not part of this. Because this says clearly that this is to advise on matters relating to meals program. If there are other things that are made, that decisions are made, it should be citizens of Duncanville, but because taxpayers are paying for that building. And they need to have their own committee of citizens that are here. They can have jurisdiction there, or out the community as a whole.
Well, they're an advisory board.
Right.
They don't really have jurisdiction over
Okay,
anybody.
I used the
but-
wrong word. They can have conversation.
It's fine. I mean, it doesn't matter to us.
Well-
The more input from people, the better that we can
Well-
provide input to y'all. So it doesn't matter to us. We just brought this to you because, as I said,
Well-
we were having trouble getting enough people.
Right, and that's what I heard, and I would just ask us as a council to consider maybe lowering it from 9 to 5, so that these 4 people can continue, and then maybe we could find one more person as opposed to trying to find 4 more people, so that they can still be there, be engaged, feel like, just have that sense of work that they're contributing to what's happening at the senior center.
No, did anything come, when you were talking to them, Noel, did anything like that come up about them still wanting to be a part of doing what they're doing? And how would they want us to continue to interact?
The discussions that I had was that they look at their roles and responsibilities and duties and what the goals and objectives were, and that I shared the same thing with the Sharing Care Site Council, what they were doing. There was some duplication of efforts, if you will. If we were going to continue that, to clearly state what it was we were going to, what the objective was, and that
That's what needs to be
it
done.
would be hands-on, and that we made certain that we made, so we were able to advance rather than to meet as a group and not have any clear goals or objectives. I think that's some of the, I think he said he was hearing concerns in the community or the council when we hear that the purpose, the roles, et cetera. So they were content with even joining, if available, that they would consider joining the Sharing Care.
I mean, I just, they want to serve. I mean, and my thing is, I just don't want to be a tagline that we're the most engaged citizens. I mean, let them work.
I think it should be taken so that whatever the park thing is, I don't think that should be part of it. They need to be senior advocacy.
So what I would suggest then, if the majority of the council wish to do that, then on this, you would just table it tonight, and then what we will do is come back with another resolution to amend the resolution that established them, make the changes that y'all want us to make, if you want to make those changes.
When you're saying doing that, is that basically having the 9 to a different number where they could?
Tell us what you would want to bring back.
So when they meet, there's always going to be a quorum because of the activity and the commitment and participation.
Because that was arbitrary anyway.
Mayor,
Don wanted to say
I have
something.
one more question. When does the Sharing Care, when do they have their meetings or board meetings?
They meet every second Monday at 10 a.m. every month. And base advocacy was meeting every second Thursday of the month in the evening at 7.
So one was in the morning and one was in the evening.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a duplication of effort, and I hear the most engaged citizen argument, but citizens' times are worth something. And if they're going to be on a committee that's not being able to make quorum, that really has a duplicate board already there, then let's put them on some committee that they'll be actually effective on.
But they can't make quorum because of the number.
So get rid of the committee. You have a committee. Why do we need 2 committees?
Because this committee is not citizens of Duncanville, and it is about meals mostly. We just got the material late, but if you
And
read,
it's also about what goes on in the activity.
but they can't have jurisdiction if they're not citizens in Duncanville about what goes on in the Senior Citizen Center. That's taxpayers pay for.
They can have jurisdiction because they join. Citizens will join. I guarantee there's more citizens there than not citizens. And if they have an interest in it, they will join it, and they will become part of the group and then the board.
Do you remember back a few years ago when we had all of these people come and protest because the auditorium changed their hours, and the preponderance of them weren't even citizens of Duncanville? It was like,
But that's not our issue. That
But
auditorium's
it-
under the DISD.
that is very similar to this, when it's
Yeah.
not,
Because our staff works for Duncanville, our senior center, he answers to the city manager, Duncanville is over that, and we, as a city council, are over them. So they're.
No, we're not.
We are over the senior center. We are over.
You're not over this committee.
That we are, in the hierarchy, we are.
Ladies,
So I'm
I
just saying,
didn't-
I'm just saying, I'm for getting rid of it.
We hadn't even heard of it.
Okay, I
Mostly
didn't-
because there's
and that's-
duplication of effort, and I think and when you do that, you get two mixed messages, and it's just cleaner and more efficient if you just have one board. That's just my say, you can take a vote on it if you want.
Mr. LeBlanc wants to.
No, I mean, my intent was not for this to get, I'm just concerned about these 4 people. And having been on a board that was dissolved, it hurt.
It
hurt.
wasn't dissolved, we still have the multicultural
And I'm
social
telling you,
engagement committee.
it's not doing the same thing we were doing. I was on it, Leslie. It's not doing the same thing that we were trying to do. It's not. And we were dissolved because of the fact, and Mark can testify, we had a meeting over at the senior center with council, and council never came and gave us direction. And because of that, that board ended up having to be merged into another board. So, okay, so that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. And again, it's not to cause any contention tonight, but I'm just thinking about those 4 people. And I'm not saying I'm right, but Mr. Garcia, I just wanted you to
Well, how about we, Patrick, what you're saying has great merit, and I appreciate anybody that wants to volunteer in this city to be active needs to be accommodated to the best degree possible. Can we, Noel, can you go back and have some discussion with those individuals on the advocacy committee and tell them the sense of the council that we understand that the quorum issue, we have to accommodate that, and at the same time, we don't want to disenfranchise them in terms of being active in our community. And see if they want to continue or if they wanted to become part of the commission. And say, hey, yeah, we're going to be happy to do this. We don't mind paying. I'm sure are they members of the? Are they already paying?
Well, one of the
members
prerequisites to be a member is that you're 50. So that means that they'd have to be all over 50.
Are they paying members of the senior center?
The members of the senior advocacy right now? No.
No, okay.
They're not all
Not
over
all of
50.
them are, I mean, some of them may be. but
Like
not
Pat
all
is
of them
one
are.
of the members, so she pays. She's an active member of the center, and she's actually on the advocacy commission. But not all of them are members. That's one of the goals, one of the intent I had was to make certain that they did become members.
So could you, as I said, could you go back and tell them how we're feeling about this, that we want
And I don't think they all need to be 50.
engaged, and we understand, it would be a good thing if they could become part of the share and care, understanding that they would also have to pay membership to the senior center. If they're willing to do that, and that's their desire, then I think we as a council should accommodate what they would prefer to do. Because Patrick has merit, we don't, if we shut them off, they could walk away thinking they're not wanted. And I think that there's merit in that concern. So
Everybody needs to know, I mean, I don't think it's a person in this room that doesn't want to feel that they have a sense of value.
Right.
At some point, somewhere in their life, that they mean something to something, somebody, so that's all I'm saying.
And that's why I'm saying, if you go and communicate to them our feeling that we don't want them disenfranchised, we want them to be able to participate, is what we're thinking about doing okay for them. And so we could table this tonight and let Noel have some more discussion with the advocacy group in terms of becoming part of the sharing care
Absolutely.
and the conditions that go along with that.
Well, you get back to the point, though, they have to be a member, they have to be 50. And on ours, we don't. And I think that we need to look at that as a council. Do you really think that you should require everybody that's on the senior advocacy group to be 50?
Is there any exception to that for senior sharing care?
Unless.
Can they have
To join.
like adjunct member, what's going on, an affiliate membership if you're less than 50?
Yeah, if you had a caregiver, they were coming out. There's an exception, but
Is that
if you
something
allow
from-
me to, I would like to research that more.
Something from the D-Trip, but,
What'd you say? You'd like
Probably-
to-
I'd like to research it more. I
Right now,
need time.
Yeah, let's ask them.
What we'll do is Noel will talk with each of the 4 people on the Senior Advocacy Commission. We'll just get their thoughts individually as to what they think as far as the future of this commission versus the Sharing Care Committee. And we'll compile their thoughts and information, and we'll probably encourage them to contact y'all too so that you can hear directly from them, rather than it's not filtered through us. But let us have those conversations. Noel has talked with them already before, so I don't want to say that we haven't. They are aware that we've had these discussions and talked to them at a meeting earlier about their thoughts on dissolving it as well, right?
And I think as a council, we need to decide, do we want to make them be 50 and up?
Well, I was just going to talk to DAAA and find out if there's any accommodation for
Yes,
that. Because what we're doing here is doing something unique, and maybe has not been brought to DAAA before.
Okay.
And see if there's a possibility.
Mr. Garcia, the
Yes.
conversation you already have had with, are they okay? Do they want to
The
continue?
advocacy committee?
Yes, sir.
They just, as you mentioned, just feel a sense of wanting to belong, whether it's with the senior advocacy or
Okay.
another commission that would have a slot.
Great.
Maybe we need some younger people.
Mayor, the consensus is to pull this item and then have the city manager's office report back to y'all. And so for when you get out there, with the consent of the council, you could say, we're going to pull agenda item 5E as instructed in the work session.
Okay.
You know who would have been good on this was that Tammy Apney. She works with, she owns home health care and works with older people and understands them, and I don't think she's 50. I don't think that should be a prerequisite for ours.
Item 5F is considering appointments to boards and commissions, being appointments to fill vacancies on the Multicultural Social Engagement Partnership and the Library Board. As explained in the memo, we have one opening on the Multicultural Social Engagement Partnership. On the Library Board, we have currently 5 vacancies to fill. There are 9 members on that board. If you recall, when you were doing your board and commission interviews, we did not have very many who applied for the library board, and you directed us to bring back a resolution to reduce the membership on that board and also to advertise for the vacancies. So we have done that, and we actually have now a number of applicants for the library board, 6 applicants for the library board. So it is up to you if you want to fill all the vacancies and keep it at 9, or if you want to reduce the membership. The following item after this is a resolution to reduce the membership from 9 to 7. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do. If you want to fill all the vacancies, then you would just pull that item as well. If you want to only fill up to 7 and then approve the item to reduce that number from 9 to 7, that is your all's call.
We have 6 applicants and how many vacancies?
There are
5.
5 vacancies on the library
We have
board,
more
6
applicants?
applicants.
We need. I think we pull that and fill them.
That's your all's call. I wanted, since y'all had previously directed us to reduce it, brought it to you, gives you the most flexibility. Did not want to make an assumption for you, so you have that option.
And I'd like to say is that I feel like we are just talking about being engaged and stuff, put them on.
I do
Let's
too.
move forward.
So can we take the
Leave it
6?
at 9. So leave it at 9.
Can we take the 6?
So we will leave it at 9
You
and
can leave it at 9, and you would have to appoint 5 of the 6 applicants.
And I would like to appoint Paget and Bush.
Could you repeat that again?
okay, yeah,
It's
that's
left at 9,
Then
there's
what-
1 vacancy.
No, there's
No,
5.
There's 5 vacancies.
And we have
5,
6
there are
applicants.
currently 4 people on the board. They cannot meet either right now because they don't have a quorum. So if you want to leave it at 9, then appoint 5 of the 6 applicants. If you want to reduce it to 7, then only appoint 3 and then approve the next item after this.
I talked to 2 of them and they want to be on it. I said,
That's,
let them be
I
on it.
agree with Don that we put the 5 on and leave it at 9. Yeah.
Have we had a struggle before now, to fill any space?
But we have 6 new applicants.
before now, was there a?
No.
Not really, but this year was the first year that I think, that since I've been here, that I saw we did not have very many applicants for the library board. Before, we've not had a problem with that.
I agree with mine.
In fact, we usually have more people applying than we have places.
Okay, thank you.
What process then do we need to go through as a council to appoint 5? We have 6 applications in our package, but we have to then eliminate one of the 6 somehow.
Then we also have one on the
Multicultural.
So
But Kim
looks
Malone-
like we got.
But Kim Malone still on the senior advocacy board, so-
Right, and you did have Ms. Reva Reeves who had applied for the multicultural social engagement.
Oh, all right, so put her on,
Yeah, just
put her on
Yeah.
multicultural, put the
Yeah.
remaining
Put
5
the
on
5.
Go
library.
there.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah, there you go.
poof.
As far as we know,
Reeves on
Okay.
multicultural,
Okay.
and 5 on library.
All right,
And do
so-
away with
Wait,
the
wait,
next
wait,
one.
wait, 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 wait,
So,
wait,
all
wait.
right, so we'll
No, wait.
I think Kristen, the city secretary, emailed y'all with some information on applicants, so the ordinance does stipulate that members with certain. You
Oh,
have
yeah,
that
yeah.
ordinance.
What's
I
that?
think that was an issue.
Oh, it is.
She currently owes
time to get
on
them.
their taxes. She hasn't paid them in February.
Who?
Who-
Applicant.
Yeah, applicant.
For the,
Hmm. What,
the ordinance does not allow it.
Yeah, the email stated.
So.
But you can leave that one right now, just do
Right.
nothing on it, let us confirm with the person as
Okay.
well. But
That's a good
from
idea.
our information right now, it's not, so.
Okay, so what we're going to have is a motion on item F, that we're going to appoint 5.
it would be to our benefit to name them.
you think?
So,
Between
So-
now and 7 o'clock. Someone would make us a list so that I could read that list, please.
You making the motion?
Whoever's making the motion
No.
will make the
It's
motion.
who makes the motion?
we'll get it ready.
Anybody can make the motion.
Well, they're the ones that read the names.
Well, yeah, then, we need the list, please.
Yeah.
Somebody could put that together for us. Patrick,
That's
you
you,
want to
Chris.
make the
That's
motion?
me.
Patrick, you want to make the motion?
I can.
I'll be happy.
I mean, yeah. You'll make a list?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Don's gonna make the list, Don's gonna make the motion. And what we've agreed is that 5 are gonna go to the library, but there's gonna be the one outstanding, because I have to check that person would end up, the one that wants to be on
We can do it, yeah, we can do it.
multicultural.
And then we do away with the next
That
agenda
wasn't why I
item,
said that, I can do that.
Correct.
because
Yeah,
it's,
and then,
it is decreasing the number of people. We're not
Then
doing
we'll
that, so you just
pull-
pull that.
Well, G is not, you
It'll be
pull
pulled.
G.
Yeah, pull G.
I would suggest we not say that out front in case it's not true. Just say, we're
Yeah,
gonna check
just-
qualifications. We've
yeah.
got 6 applicants, we're gonna check qualifications, 1 applicant, we're gonna appoint the other 5.
And you just won't make an appointment to the
And we'll just hold
multicultural
that
social
until
engagement.
that verified.
I don't
just
say
leave it
anything
at
at
that.
all.
And then appoint those 5, and then as to 6G, is the council in work session decided it was unnecessary to take a vote on that, so it'll be pulled from the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Okay. So we have a library quarterly report, and we have a public works quarterly report. Mike, who's going to be leading the discussion on item 5F?
Chief Chase will present that. And then our HR director.
No, no,
Todd
F,
Sager.
F.
5.
I'm sorry,
F.
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 Oh, I'm sorry, there is no, that's really for, just for y'all. I'll open the item and introduce it, but then it's for y'all and take a look.
All right.
I'm sorry, I think you're
F, I'm appointing the library board?
the appointments to the board.
Yeah.
That's just straight up. And I thought Don was, are you making that?
He's gonna, you make the list, I mean, I don't.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
I
Yeah,
know,
I'll-
I read it, and then Don can just take over and
Yeah,
make the
that's
motion.
just,
Yeah.
You wouldn't, you won't have to say anything.
It doesn't.
Okay, we're cool.
Yeah, we're just filling the board.
All right, we're cool. All right. Okey-doke. We are done at 6:45. Thank you for everyone's attendance. First item on our agenda is the invocation with Pastor Jeff Conrad from Grace Point Church. Please rise.
Would you pray with me, please? Our Lord, giver and sustainer of all that we hold dear, we praise you for all that you provide, for the blessings that you constantly bestow upon us. But especially tonight, we're grateful for this community, a community of champions, a community that champions integrity and diversity, success, unity, and champions its many citizens. Lord, you've said that we ought to pray for our governing authorities, since you've established them to promote peace and order and justice. So therefore I pray for Mayor Gordon, Mayor Pro Tem Thomas, Councilman LeBlanc, Councilman Schwartz, Councilman McBurnett, Councilman Cook, Councilwoman Jameson. And we ask, Lord, that you would graciously grant them the wisdom to govern even when there's conflicting interest and issues. Give them a sense of welfare and true needs of our people. Give them a keen thirst for justice and righteousness and confidence in what is good and fitting. And Father, we pray that you will give them the ability to work in harmony even when there's honest disagreement. Lord, grant them personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. Pray for the agenda set before them tonight. Give them an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work around and in our beloved city. Amen.
Please join me in the pledges to our flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. Moving on to item 2A, proclamations and presentations, recognition of Keep Duncan Beautiful Spring 2019 curb residential properties. Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure tonight to be able to present the properties that were selected by our board. We have 5 of our board members, 5 of our 10 board members who drive the districts and look for properties that are eligible, and we go through a process of vetting to make sure they're current on their taxes and in good graces with the city. And so these particular properties we'd like to recognize tonight. And I would ask that if you are in the audience tonight, if you would make your way down to the front, we would like to take a picture together to honor you here tonight. So for District 1, we have Richard Greiner at 1007 Spring Lake Drive. District 2 is Barry and Sandra Barnett at 234 South Horn Street. District 3, Virginia Watson, 702 Flamingo Way. District 4 is Ronnie Perkins, 1822 Seabrook Drive. And District 5 is Felix and Donna Flores at 1107 Statler Drive. And so are there any of the members here tonight? We do? Awesome. Thank you so much for coming tonight. It was great to be able to honor you. Also, they get a goodie bag and also a sign out in front of their yard to advertise to the neighbors that they have been recognized.
District 4, did I hear?
District 4.
Pull their
Yes,
picture back up. There we go.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So if we could get a photo.
On behalf of the entire city council, thank you to the Keep Duncan Beautiful board and Mr. and Mrs. Where did it go? Perkins. Thank you for being here tonight and taking care of your home and making it a beautiful place for our city of Duncanville. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 2B, proclamation recognizing Severe Weather Awareness Week, March 3 through 9, 2019, in the city of Duncanville. I have the proclamation to read, and accepting it will be Tonya Hunter, our Regional Emergency Management Operations Coordinator. Whereas each year brings the potential for violent weather to Texas, amen, what's going on in the rest of the country.
Yes.
And in fact, remembering those, was 23 individuals that perished in the tornadoes. Oh. Okay. 23 individuals have perished in the tornadoes throughout, was it Alabama? So looking at our weather, and we've had our share as well. Tony, I know what you do for keeping up with that, and we do appreciate it. I'll start over. Each year brings the potential for violent weather to Texas, including the city of Duncanville, which could be devastated by flooding, tornadoes, hail, windstorms, wildland fires, and other emergencies. And whereas the Texas Division of Emergency Management and the National Weather Service have joined together to urge all citizens to prepare for severe weather events and to educate themselves on safety strategies. And whereas Governor Greg Abbott has declared February 17 through 22, 2019 as Severe Weather Awareness Week in Texas, the city of Duncanville would like to declare March 3 through 9, 2019 as Severe Weather Awareness in the city of Duncanville. During Severe Weather Awareness Week, Texans are advised to assemble an emergency preparedness kit of important emergency supplies, including a first aid kit, a NOAA weather radio or battery-powered radio, flashlight, medication, non-perishable food items, and bottled water. Be aware of your nearest storm shelter locations, know where family will go if an evacuation is necessary, and develop an emergency plan for communicating with family and friends. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, on behalf of the City Council of Duncanville, do hereby proclaim March 3 through 9 as Severe Weather Awareness Week in Duncanville. One thing I want to say, I had an opportunity to be trained for 3 hours from the Texas Department of Public Safety on severe weather emergency management for elected officials. And while I was there, the 2 individuals from Austin for the Texas DPS made special note of Tonya Hunter. In fact, one of the individuals said, when she has a question and she has a problem, she picks up the phone and she calls Tonya. And this is the individual who is one of the 2 primary points of contact for the entire state of Texas for emergency management. So what do we have? We have the guru here. We have the #1. So Tonya, we are very proud that you are here with us and you are a regional emergency management individual that we can rely on in the case of an emergency and disaster like this. It gives us great confidence and great peace knowing that when it comes and I get called to the EOC with these folks, in fact, I even learned what the EOC was, that we know that you're going to be there to help us and guide us, and we do appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Just real quick, in the back there are, so each of you can start your own disaster supply kit. We have a little first aid kit, and then there's also a flashlight. So if you haven't started your own family's disaster supply kit or 72-hour kit, I encourage you to grab those 2 items in the back. Also, just a quick reminder, we do test our outdoor warning sirens on the first Wednesday of the month, so that will be tomorrow. So we will be doing our outdoor warning siren test for the city of Cedar Hill, Duncanville, and DeSoto, and Lancaster tomorrow at 2 p.m. So if you happen to hear the sirens, we are testing those to make sure that they are operational for severe weather season. And then We do have a couple of exercises that are coming up on March 14th. We're going to be preparing as a community on how we're going to handle disaster-related debris. And then in May, we're scheduling a damage assessment exercise. So we're continuing to keep preparing our city staff and our residents for the threat of severe weather. So thank you.
Thank you. Did you get your picture? Moving on to item number 3, citizens' input. At this point in time, individuals of the city are permitted to address city council for 2 minutes, and during that time, they have to complete a card so they know someone needs to come up and speak. They can speak on any topic they wish. City council cannot respond to that, but however, notes can be taken by staff. And one of the things that the city of Duncanville has as a policy that's been in effect for a long period of time is that when it comes to election time, citizen comments are not broadcasted in terms of our live stream. So at this time, the broadcasting portion of our city council will be suspended, but will restart when the citizen comments are over. Moving on to item number 4, the consent agenda. The city secretary will read the consent agenda items, please.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the February 11th joint meeting with Parks and Recreation Board, February 12th joint meeting with Planning and Zoning Commission, and the February 19th City Council regular meeting. Item 4B, consider a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of continuing disclosure agreement to the Trinity River Authority of Texas. 4C, consider a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2019 work plan, which is attached hereto as Exhibit A, and reestablishing capstones and providing for an effective date.
We have a motion to approve consent item agendas. We have a second. Thank you. Please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5 in our agenda, items for individual consideration. Item 5A, consider amending ordinance number 2346 as amended, section 2, by designating one battalion chief in the fire department as fire marshal / battalion chief, as a separate position within the battalion chief classification under civil service in the police and fire departments. Chief Chase.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Mr. Hoagman. Thank you for having me here tonight. What we're asking y'all to do is amend City Ordinance 2346, Section 2, within the fire department. What we have as of October 1st, 2018, we've had 51 positions. If you look under F3, we had 4 battalion chiefs. Currently, 3 of those battalion chiefs are under operations. The 4th one is the actual fire marshal position. What we're asking to do is separate those, separate one of the positions into the fire marshal's position due to the duties that the fire marshal performs. What he does, he enforces the fire code. He's an arson investigator and does inspections, fire and life safety education. And with that being separated from the operations division, we can separate the test material as well. With the operations battalion chiefs, we do incident command, strategies and tactics, whereas the fire marshal will do test over code ordinances and things like that. So what we're asking you to do is separate those positions within that classification so we can test separately. Reason being, why we're doing this is in civil service, we have to test for each promotion. That's why we're trying to separate these two so we can streamline our testing process and be more efficient with it and just test for that fire marshal's position. Any questions?
Move.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5B, Consider a resolution authorizing approval of an economic development performance agreement by the Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation to Harold Russell, owner of Have Our Properties, in an amount up to 50% of the actual costs, not to exceed $5,767.21, for a facade and architectural improvement incentive grant for a building located at 606 South Clark Road, Duncanville, Texas. Ms. James.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. As the mayor said this evening, I'm here presenting the request from Harold Russell, which is the owner of HVR Properties. He is requesting assistance from the DCEDC in the form of the facade grant for a metal walkway cover for his building located at 606 South Clark Road. Here's a diagram or aerial that simply indicates where the building's located. As you can see, it is on the corner of Wheatland and Clark Road, and that is the location, as Councilwoman Jameson pointed out earlier, that Have Our Burgers is located at here in Duncanville. This is a picture illustrating where the walkway cover will be removed. As you can see, it does currently have wood shingles on it, and that does not meet code, and it is in need of repair. So that would be replaced with the metal as requested. The board does feel like, the DCDC board does feel like that this will not only obviously address the maintenance issues, but as well as improve the overall look of the building and give it more of a modern look. On February 18th, 2019, the DCEDC unanimously approved a grant in the amount of 50% of the actual cost, not to exceed $5,767.21 for a 24-gauge standing seam preformed metal walkway cover. And you can see that they did submit 3 bids for the metal as well. As you know, we always, with our grants, especially when they come to our larger grants, that we do require our applicants to sign an agreement, and that will be the case here as well. And the terms and the conditions of the agreement is as follows. The contractor that performs work obviously must be registered with the city of Duncanville, and the work has to be completed in accordance with the statement up there in terms of what the product is, as well as in accordance with all city code and ordinances. Have Our Properties will also have the project completed within 6 months of the grant being approved by City Council. Obviously, we have a clause in there that if they do need to come back and ask for an extension, it will have to be requested and determined that there's a legitimate reason. In addition, the grant will be paid upon completion of the walkway and approval of the City of Duncanville's Building Inspections Department. As they do with all of our work that's done on the grants projects, they will inspect those. And as we do with any of our agreements, we will include a recapture clause or a clawback provision in order to protect the interest of the city. Mr. Russell is here this evening, and he would be happy to answer any questions that you have. I'd also like to point out in your agenda packet that the color of the metal walkway is included in there as well. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Russell, would you come forward? I have more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
Have Our Burgers is, to me, it's an iconic location.
May I interrupt for a minute?
Sure.
It's not Have Our Burger. It's Have Our Charburger.
Oh, yeah, on the sign.
And the reason I bring that up is it's been said that
Have
that's
Our
been
Charburger.
called for many, many years. You're no exception. And just as a point of history, my wife and I built that in 1982. We sold it some 16 years after we built it. And some of you may or may not remember Doug Watson, who was a builder here. He came in the day we were opening. We had no name. And he said, I have a name. Harold's Hamburger Haven. My name is Harold. It ain't going to be Harold's Hamburger Haven. We came up with Have Our Charburger on the spot. Have Our, O-U-R really.
Our
but
Charburger.
it's Harold and Vicki Russell if you start adding up all the numbers or all the letters. So just a point of history.
Well, as I said, to me, it's an iconic location.
Thank you.
You know, myself, my family, my young son dropped in there very, very quite often.
It's interesting you say that because we have run into kids, I say kids, they're grown men now, grown women now, that have worked there, and they will come up to you sometime and say, I used to work for you. And you don't remember these people because they changed as we changed. It's interesting, they remember us, but we don't remember them.
Yeah.
And I say that we do remember a lot of them. But just one quick point, I was at the Miami Boat Show several years ago, and I was walking through, and this guy said, hey, I'll give you a beer if you'll let me give you an insurance quote for your boat. Well, free beer, right? So you're going to do whatever. This kid, we're talking, and we're looking at each other, and he says, I know you. And okay. I used to work for you. Miami, Florida, boat show.
Wow.
Who would have figured?
Well,
But you're right. It's been an iconic
and
business.
I want to appreciate or thank you for taking the initiative to improve the location.
Thank you.
Because as an iconic location in our city, doing this is where we are grateful. Mr. Cooks.
I really had a question for Jessica, but I will say thank you for your business in Duncanville, and I look forward to stopping by and trying that burger out.
Thank you. I just make sure, we don't own it anymore, but the two gentlemen who have owned it since then, one of them has been there for now 4 years. They have done an outstanding job. Many of you know Tracy Shook and Dan Ronkowski now owns it, and they've done a really good job. I commend them.
Thank you.
You had a question for
I have a question for
James.
Jessica, unless you have a
Thank you.
question for.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is Tracy back?
You know, I really don't know where Tracy is. He went to work for Dalton Lott
Right,
over
he's
in
in-
Arkansas at
No, he's in Branson.
Branson. That's what I was going to say. I don't know the answer to that. He came
But
back
he
when his
still owns
friend
it?
died,
Yes.
and since then, I don't know whether anyone's talked to him.
But he still owns it.
I beg your pardon?
He still owns the.
No, he does not.
Okay.
He hasn't owned it now for 4 years. We own the building and have leased it to both Tracy and the new owner. And my wife's business, Brussels Telecom Solutions, has operated out of the other half of that building for many, many years, over 20 years. And so her business has slowed down, she's slowed down, and we have kind of consolidated, and we're hoping to be able to, by sprucing up the building, getting it up in better shape, and fixing that roof, that we have 2 spaces that we perhaps can lease out, office spaces to lease out to someone else.
Okay. So, Mr. Cooks, did you have anything else?
Not for the owner, but for Jessica, I do.
Okay. Well, Jessica, could you step?
I'm sorry? Oh,
No, that's it, thank you.
okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Hey, Jessica, just a quick question. You know, with all of the partnerships that we have with businesses and with the opportunity to showcase other businesses, the things that the EDC is doing in our city, have we ever considered to partner with the owner to ask if there is a sign that we could put up to say EDC taxpayers' dollars at work, while the work is going on, to kind of showcase that as well, providing the owner says yes?
We have not, but that's a great idea, and that's something we definitely can look into.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just a thought for you.
Mr. McBurnett? Want to turn your mic on so we get it on record?
All right. Make a motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item 5C. Consider a resolution authorizing approval of a paint grant by the Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation to Harold Russell, owner of Have Our Properties, in an amount up to 70% of the actual cost, not to exceed $3,700.18 for a building located at 606 South Clark Road, Duncanville, Texas. Ms. James.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. Again, the mayor has read the request that Mr. Russell has made on the EDC. So at this point, I'd just like to, obviously, we looked at the building and you know where the location is. Here's some other additional pictures that are also in your packet as well that shows the front side of the building, which we talked about the covered walkway as well, but also the back portion of the building as well. So you can see the need for it to be painted. In addition, in your packet, you also have the colors that they are proposing to paint the building as well. The paint grant program, as you know, pays up to 70% of the actual cost, not to exceed $5,000 for paint. And this also includes preparing the surface of the building as well as the labor costs involved. They did submit 3 bids, as you can see up here. And so on February 18th, the EDC board chose to approve a grant for 70% of the actual cost, not to exceed $3,700.18. They felt like that between the awning as well as the additional paint, that this would really modernize and really enhance the sustainability of the building. And again, I'm sorry, I apologize. Again, Mr. Russell is here if you have any questions, or I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Make a motion that we approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5D. Consider a resolution adopting the City of Duncanville logo, authorizing the use of said logo in all aspects of promoting the city, and identifying city facilities on city vehicles, city website, printed materials, signage, and other appropriate uses, authorizing the city attorney to register the city logo, taglines, and marks as a trademark with state and federal authorities. That new logo is attached as exhibits, authorizing the new city logo be phased in as new materials are purchased or printed. Ms. James.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. This is just the background, and obviously you know the dates, and really the existing logo, it's been obviously used since the 70s. It was officially adopted in capacity in October 17, 1988 by the Duncanville City Council. And you know that in terms of the kind of the chronological history that we've been through, in terms of, first of all, in 2017, City Council did direct staff to look at designing a new logo and to find a firm that could do that for them. Obviously, the City Council didn't choose to elect or engage Misfit Brands. And so with the appointment of the committee, they went through and met with Misfit Brands a number of times. Obviously, we gained public input through the town hall meeting as well as the online survey. And there were 249 responses to the online survey. And all these responses and all this information collected was used to sculpt or create the logo. And then obviously that was brought to City Council, and a couple of times, and City Council had some input with some changes and modifications to that. And so then we close out our last activity in terms of February 5th. The council did discuss it during the briefing session and did select a logo and asked or directed the city manager to bring back the selected logo with additional changes for the City Council to officially adopt. This is essentially what the logo will look like, the proposed logo. Obviously, you have the Pantone colors up there as well. And then this is what it'll look like. It is a white D, and this is what it would look like with a dark colored background. This is a grayscale version of it, and I apologize. It seems a little bit blurry to me. I apologize on that. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the City Council might have.
Thank you. Mr. McBurnett.
Ms. James, just, I guess I wanted a little bit of clarification. My understanding is this will be a minimal impact budgetarily.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The logo would be implemented through attrition. And so basically, as business cards got used up, then we would order new ones with the current logo on it, as well as our letterhead and most of our paper production that we have. We do not order card stock, and so therefore there would not be a cost associated with that. That's simply us printing it from our current existing printer. In addition, any city vehicles, signs, things like that would again be replaced through attrition.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no further comment, Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Please vote. Thank you. Notice to attendees and to the council, and for the record, item 5E has been removed for this particular session based on council consent. In working session, the council has asked that this be given further study. Moving on to item 5F, consider appointments to boards and commissions being appointments to fill existing vacancies on the Multicultural Social Engagement Partnership and the Library Board. We are aware in briefing session of the information contained in this. The board will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Please vote. Oh.
We have to have
Yes,
names.
yep.
And I'd like to do that. I'd like to make a motion that we approve for the library board, Miss Cindy Clinton, Miss Susan Bush, Miss Lavinia Paget, Mr. Michael Kreitzberg, and Miss Maggie Shepard.
Second those named by Councilman Burnett.
Okay, that is the correct motion. The previous motion be stricken, I would guess, is what the language would be. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Thank you very much. Item 5G as well has been removed by council by consent in our working session. This is based on the decision made in 5E that there be some additional consideration and study being given to this particular item. Moving on to item number 6, staff and board reports. First item is receive the library quarterly report. Mr. Vasquez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much. I'm here to deliver the library's quarterly report. I'll make it quick and painless. This quarter, the library, we've had a great program. Our baby sign story time. We've had a regular attendance of 15 families. So far, we still have 2 more sessions of this class to go on. But several of our visitors or our attendees have shown great marked improvements in their communication skills and sign language skills for these these are all pre-verbal, primarily children in this class. So that's been very successful. We're looking forward to having another session of these classes later on this year. Thanks to the Friends of the Library very much. They donated dollars to us to buy 2 new Playway launch pads, which are self-contained educational tablets that have math and other learning materials. And then we were able to reconfigure our children's technology section in the library and offer additional resources for our patrons visiting the library. They proved to be very popular since we've installed those. So again, we're very grateful to our friends for that. Some of the things we have coming up, we're expanding our weekly ESL classes, adding Thursday evening sessions to that. We're currently registering students. Right now we're topping up. We're going to top off at 20 for those classes. We're about halfway registered. They'll be beginning at the end of the month for those.
Quick, how many people attend the ESL classes, roughly?
For the weekly ones we do right now, it's about 15 to 20.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so those are weekdays during the day. We did get lots of interest in having other available classes during off work hours in the evenings. So thankful to volunteers we've had come to the library that we've brought in to teach those classes for us. So.
Thank you.
We're also expanding, again, with the thankful to our tech volunteers, expanding our public computer classes, offerings of basic classes. And also, we're also preparing now our spring break programs for next week. So we've got several craft storytime programs and a petting zoo that was very popular last year. We had about 400 attendees for that one. So we're excited for that. And right now the weather looks good for it. So let's keep our fingers crossed it stays that way. And we're also we're lighting up our performers for their summer reading club. So we're excited about those too. Currently, we're on task to initiate our new ILS, Integrated Library Software System. May 6th, we're working with Koha, so we're excited about that. We've been streamlining the collection, weeding out dated materials, damaged materials, reassessing our collection in preparation for that. So we have, once we do our data migration, we'll be prepared and streamlined for that situation there too. So to give you some of our stats for this quarter, we've had 32,000, almost 33,000 library visitors. We circulated almost 46,000 items. Through interlibrary loan, we've lent out 30 items, received 8. We've added 343 additional borrowers to the library, and we've added 1,844 individual items to our collection as well. The programs we've offered so far this quarter, 72 programs, including that baby science story time, and we had attendance of 990, almost 1,000 folks for those attendances. For computer usages, we have individual logins at 7,383, which equals 5,414 hours. We've had 332 reference transactions, individual interactions with patrons, and with our great volunteers, they've given us 407 hours in this quarter of additional help to us. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. McBurnett.
Julio, I just want to thank you for what you're doing with the library and stuff. I want to commend you for everything you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate that. I have a wonderful staff, and I just get out of their way. But I try to point the way to good places, so that's always good.
Mr. Cooks.
Leo, to echo your great job at running our library, would you go back a couple of slides for your reading program for me for just a second?
Which one were you looking at?
You said reading. Do you think you have a reading program coming up?
We have summer reading club we're preparing for. I don't think it's back here.
Yeah, they are performers lined up for a summer reading club.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever considered naming that a different name, and probably perhaps after a leader of our city or whatever at this point?
I have discussed that with the mayor. Other cities do have a mayor-sponsored program, and I have discussed that with the mayor, and I'm open to his participation. If he sure wishes to participate, I'm more than happy to work with him on that.
Okay, I didn't call you names. I'm just
No, I understand.
All right, then secondly, I think I read in the website that you have a home buyers seminar or something. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Sure. We try to offer as many opportunities for our citizens to come in and educate themselves in various opportunities. So we do have a couple of home buyer seminars that we have coming up. I believe they're in March. We have local folks come in, talk to first-time home buyers, let them understand how the process works, what the potential pitfalls are, what they have to prepare for, people who haven't been through that process before, so there's no surprises for them. And this gives them an opportunity to learn about that before they actually venture into that. And this promotes buying local homes and investing in local business and things like that too.
Is that city sponsored, or is that just a volunteer doing that? What is
Well, usually they will. Folks like this will approach the library, look to participate with us, and they're giving of their time to do these programs. So they're always free and open to the public. So we host those programs locally. Yeah.
I think that's an excellent program, and especially with all the things we have going on in our city, I would love to see us promote that heavy with all of the opportunity we have in our city.
Oh, sure. As we get closer to time, we have a timeline when we start promoting those heavily online and through other media to ensure we get a lot of great participation and attendance in those programs. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Quick question. It may be
Yes.
better for Mr. Beekman, our IT director. I'm not sure, but with the prevalence of cyber hacks and so on and so forth, with our open computers in the library in terms of for public use, our firewalls are in place and doing well. Are there any indications that those public computers are being targeted for any attack?
Not really. We rarely if ever we have any sense that there's an issue at that. Most often than not, if there's ever an issue, it's usually because there's a website that's gone down or something, and sometimes there's a conflict between our firewall there to protect us and a website that's been updated, and we haven't been updated as to what their changes are. But we really haven't had any instances that I know of someone going out and getting hacked because they were on the public computers, or people utilizing our computers to cause any harm or damage to our network or to other patrons that matter. So yeah, I appreciate IT and all they do for us. They've kept us really well safe and protected, and our patrons very well safe and protected.
Same would apply to our portable hotspots that we.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, we've really said we haven't had any issues that I know of, and we continue to have great success with making those available to the public, and they appreciate us, and we appreciate them. So.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you.
Velasquez. Thank you. Moving on to item 6B, receive the Public Works Quarterly Report. Mr. Ramey.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's been a while up here, since I've been up here to brief you all on Public Works activities. So this is us looking back at first quarter of this year. Looking at most of the metrics reflect the first quarter, but all the other slides reflect activities from when we last had this conversation through today. What you'll notice in the next few slides is we've had a lot of hiring activity within the Public Works Department. We promoted Angelica Garcia into the Building Inspection Coordinator position following the departure of the previous coordinator, Cynthia, who went to be a city secretary. Brianna Davis was hired to be the administrative assistant in charge of the newly passed rental property registration ordinance. So she is the one who receives all the applications for the rental properties. Following the retirement of Mike Clemens back in December, we hired Tammy Island in January as our new health inspector. When Angelica went to fill got promoted to building inspection coordinator, we in turn pulled Daniel Jaimez up out of their streets department to fill the code enforcement position. And when we lost, Angie was promoted to the executive assistant for parks, and so Raina came in to be the new service center administrative assistant. And we have LaShonda, who is our solid waste administrative assistant. She's the one that manages the solid waste contract recycling for the city. Just again, going to recent accomplishments. We are in the middle of a large pipe bursting contract. Right now we're finishing up in Daniel Acres, and then we'll move on, but we'll be out doing pipe bursting basically through Thanksgiving. The main intent, again, is to, with the pipe bursting in general, is to replace old, usually undersized and worn out sanitary sewer pipe with new pipe, and one of the main benefits to the city is it helps reduce inflow and infiltration of stormwater, which over time reduces the sanitary sewer overflows. As you know, we had a few of those back in the fall from all the rain. We also completed the alley between Flamingo and Granada. We just did the final walkthroughs last week. Finishing up that job, and then we'll move on to the next alley later this year, getting that design. The construction concrete crew continues to work on repairing the sidewalks and disability ramps in the neighborhoods. That's the 11 by 17 that I provided you is just a snapshot of where we're at currently over in West Park Estates. You just sort of see the level of effort that's involved there in terms of the areas that they will be replacing. They just started there not too long ago.
How long do you think it will take?
It's really hard to say, ma'am. The activities of the concrete construction crew are especially right now, are subject to the vagaries of weather. Rain affects it, but also cold weather affects it. And sometimes they get pulled to do other jobs elsewhere. So it's a process that we just continue to go through, hit a particular neighborhood, get it all done, and then we move on to the next one. The priorities are set with consultation with our street operations superintendent, Kelly McChesney. She drives the neighborhoods and identifies the ones that need the most attention. And again, their focus is repairing the existing pavement. We use CIP contracting to where we have new work that needs to be done. I just wanted to highlight a few accomplishments out of the code enforcement. What we see here is the Redbird Village Shopping Center. This is over by in front of Harbor Freight, where we used to have the big pothole that would swallow cars. We were able to successfully work with the property owner and get that patched. Another one over at North Clark and Daniel-Dale. This is a testament of just good coordination with the property owners. This one only took about 3 weeks to do this, so this is a fast one for us. Another fast one that we were able to do is right in front of the Chase ATM machine right over at Wheatland Plaza. That had several large potholes that we were able to, again, work with the property manager to get that repaired. And then those were all, again, through voluntary compliance by the owners, so that we didn't have to do any abatement. This is one that we also want to highlight, and one of the main things that I just want to express to council is sometimes some of these code cases, fire cases, do take a while. This particular project has been in the works for a year, but what it took was code enforcement involvement, a substandard hearings, where we were getting ready to demo this building. The property actually changed hands several times very rapidly. Finally, an investor came in and fixed it up, and this is pending final inspections and about ready to go back on the market. So it was a good success story of, again, this one was just working with, putting some pressure on to get that one in compliance. Work plan status. What I do want to highlight here is the Wintergreen Road project. We attended the kickoff meeting last Friday down at Dallas County. What I want to bring up to your attention is in April, yet to be scheduled, is going to be the groundbreaking ceremony, and that will be a big opportunity for the county leaders, as well as the leadership for Duncanville, DeSoto, and Cedar Hill, all to come together to celebrate the start of this project, which has taken many years to come to fruition. The other one, again, I just want to talk about the reconstruction of the alley has just completed. What you'll see here in the next few slides is some new metrics. These are different than the ones that you've seen before. Back when we rolled out the FY19 budget, one of the things that we do is look at the metrics to evaluate how we're doing, and we tweak those. And so that's the results that you see here today. The ones that I want to point out, again, for valves exercising, our goal, we have 1,800 valves in the city, and our goal is to exercise, or basically operate and lay our eyes on our valves at least every other year. Sometimes they get covered up. Sometimes we don't know they don't work, but the idea is to identify them ahead of time, know that they work, so that we can respond to them. And you'll see a lot of these where we're short, but what I want to bring up is that we are experiencing shortages in our utilities personnel. So currently we have 5 vacancies, and it manifests itself in some of these ability to get out and really hit some of these hit these metrics where we want them to be. The tanks being cleaned and the manhills being rehabilitated, those are usually timed in one contract. We just haven't awarded those contracts yet. So those aren't ones that we do incrementally. Moving to the street maintenance. Again, what I wanted to highlight here is with the utility cuts, our goal is always to get out and repair the street permanently after we've done some kind of utility cuts by the utilities department, and we try to do them in 10 working days. What's killed us or hurt us from achieving our goal that quarter was, as you know, the fall was extremely wet which when you're trying to place the concrete and do any of the outside work really hinders our ability to get out there and do that within the goals. And the street department as well is also undermanned, so we're always filling vacancies for those. Traffic and signal operations, again, the cabinets and the rewirings are more done in a group, but our goal every year is to hit 4 of those. And the last 2, again, are tied to just measuring our ability to maintain or keep the signals and the school flashers operating to full measure. Moving to equipment services, what I asked as a measure was just to look at the major equipment that we need in the city to do our missions. We do have 2 of the ambulances and the backhoe that fell below our 95% operational readiness goal. Those were due to parts that were on national back order. So when the whole country doesn't have them, we're just out of luck. Finally, moving to code enforcement and building inspection. I think we're really tracking on all those metrics as well. That concludes my briefing, subject to your questions.
Ms. Jamison.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if you would be so kind as to address the overflow of sewage, that report that came out, WFAA, and said that we were in the top 5 of the abusers in the DFW area. We had some discussion about that earlier, about that perhaps the other people were not reporting and that we were reporting. And how do they get by with that without reporting the sewage overflow? I thought that was like a TCEQ.
Well, ma'am, just as a background, I guess, for the listening audience as well, typically what we're talking about is a sanitary sewer overflow is an event that happens, in our case, typically when excessive rainfall and groundwater get into our aged sanitary sewer systems, and then the groundwater mixed with effluent escapes out of manholes and then it gets into the river. So that's what a sanitary sewer overflow is. As far as requirements-wise, TCEQ says that if we have 100,000 gallons that enter into our creeks, then we have to make those reports. And during rain events, we go around. We do have a list of known areas that where we have these, and so if, we know where to check when there's rain events. I can't comment on what other cities are or are not doing. I can tell you that the city of Duncanville makes, in Public Works, we make our efforts to do the reporting that we are required to do in the timely manner.
So,
if I could add on to what Director Ramey said as well, I don't know that we can't really comment on what other cities do. I don't know whether they're reporting or not. We were surprised to see we were high on that list, but we are diligent about reporting our overflows. As Greg said, you're reporting it when it's above 100,000 gallon limit. Well, that's a very subjective call. You're out there looking at water flowing out. What's 100,000 gallons? So I think, our water supervisors, our water superintendent are diligent about it, and we want to be diligent. We know that it has a significance otherwise to the public, but it is something that we have had issues with here with our infrastructure over a number of years. We have made great strides on reducing that, and that is why we have had a fairly aggressive capital improvement plan over the last few years. When when he was talking about the pipe bursting earlier, that is exactly what we're trying to do. And identifying those lines, as he said, we know which ones where the problems are. Those are the high priority ones that we work on. But Councilmember LeBlanc did ask this morning, asked me to put an item on the agenda for next council meeting to discuss this, and I'd be happy to do that. I think we can give you some data and show you what we've been able to do as far as reducing that over the number of years here and where we've come from and where we are now. We still have more to do, and we are working at that, but we have that as part of our capital improvements plan. So I think we can answer more questions at that time with some of that data, but just know that we are diligent about reporting that, and we comply with all the requirements.
Well, that's of concern. If you're going out there and you're having to guesstimate how much raw sewage is overflowing, and maybe some of these cities are saying under, and we're being in the top 5, I know I was stunned, and I got some phone calls, and I don't know, maybe I would be very anxious to see what we have next meeting, because I just find it hard to believe that we're in the top 5 offenders. It said in the DFW area, but also we're in the top 5 in the state. So that's hard to believe.
I saw the news report on Channel 8 when they did it, and I remember them saying that the North Texas area is higher than the rest of the state. I was surprised. I don't know why that is.
Maybe it's zealous reporting or something. I mean, but something needs to give, because I will say this: driving over, like going down 408 Loop 12 over the Trinity, is horrific. Mm-hmm. Going down I-20 over 45 where the Trinity's down there, same thing. And I'm just stunned that there isn't a bigger outcry. Mm-hmm. And these are just areas that I travel, because the smell is beyond.
I can comment a little bit as well. So back, I've been here 18 months now. So back in last February, we had 2 sort of back-to-back. It was, an extended period of rain where we had 2 back-to-back in the vicinity of Forest Circle. And then back in the fall, where we had a number of them, but again, the main ones, they're sort of going in a particular order, as well as from my utility operations folks. But again, the main issue were Forest Circle, and as well as Little, and then we had some areas a little bit on the west side of town, and we've plotted those out. The focus of the pipe bursting that is currently underway, that will be, we've already started it, and again, it was in Daniel Acres where Little, the manhole on Little was overflowing, and then jumping up into the area by Forest Circle. So that was really the focus of our efforts in pipe bursting this year. And then again, as we move into the following fiscal years and we do our planning for pipe bursting, where we are experiencing the sanitary sewer overflows, those basins is where we are focusing our pipe bursting efforts. And again, we have a roughly $2 million contract that we're in the middle of, again, to address those issues.
Or do you believe that we're worse than other places?
I have no comment. My sample size of working for municipalities is 1.
Oh, okay.
So I can't.
But you were in some pretty rough countries.
Oh yeah, they just straight pipes.
Yeah.
We're not worried about that.
And Afghanistan, did they
Afghanistan,
have good system?
Oh, it was terrible.
No. I would like to also add too that when we're talking about these have occurred, as you know, because we report them to you that they have occurred. That they occur when we have periods of heavy rain. And so some years, I know we've not had as bad a problem because we haven't really had heavy rains, but other years we've had quite a bit of heavy rain, and that's usually when we start experiencing it, is when the ground is saturated And again, it's because of that old pipe that's broken, that's allowing that infiltration of that groundwater being sucked into the sewer pipes, and then it overflows it. And so, but it is caused a lot of times by those heavy rains. So if we don't have a heavy wet year, we're going to see less. But we have, this past year was we had quite a bit of rain, but we've had fewer overflows even than a few years ago because we've been making progress on it.
Yeah, I just know that, there are areas that it is so obvious, and it doesn't smell bad in Duncanville.
Well, could be one of those things where our honesty is coming back on us.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm wondering.
Yeah.
We need to talk to you about being so honest.
No, that's how you get
Yeah, Ms. Thomas?
I appreciate you not speculating, but I will. The news was out there when sewage was around people's knees in cities that are neighboring cities. And so the city has to, if they have this event, has to issue a press release. And I know that the city manager is diligent in doing it because the city council is copied in on those press releases. So I'm waiting, and I pay attention and I look for things, and I'm online, and I'm waiting for these other cities to release their press releases. I didn't see them. And I'm telling you, that was an epic event, and it was in the news, and they didn't issue a press release. The two cities that I was following. And so what I'm saying is that they're not doing it. We are. We're diligent in locating these. They're on our maintenance. We've known we've had this. We've been systematic. The city manager has, I guess, for the last 4 years, has been systematically attacking this problem. We're following the rules. We got good government here. We got good bone structure. We got a good plan. So all I'm saying is that we follow, and it's going to come back and hurt them, because if they don't follow the rules, then they may not get certain grants later on because they didn't follow what they were supposed to, and we'll be in line to get those. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Okay, Mr. Schwartz.
I have a totally different question. on the personnel turnover that you've had, particularly at the service center, I know that the one position you talked about that's taking over the solid waste, that position prior also handled the cross connections and backflow. How is that being handled?
Yeah, yes, sir. So thank you for bringing that up. So what we've done as we were doing an analysis of the utilities department, we identified the requirement for basically the cross connection inspector, picked up some assistant manager duties to become an assistant utilities operations manager within that slot. And then so what we did is we, in order to free up some time for more of the management aspects of the position, reclassified one of the field into the same grade, but we offloaded the solid waste responsibilities from the cross connection. So the manager, the assistant manager, now has the solid waste administrative assistant and our Wally quality tester, as well as the administrative assistant for the service center under his purview.
So all of the backflow prevention devices are still being inspected, as well as residential lawn sprinkler systems?
Yes, sir. That is correct. The only difference was in the time that in the interval where we were hiring for that position, we did use a third-party inspection company to cover that capability for cross connections during the underlap in that position.
Mr. Cooks?
Greg, you mentioned a couple of things. One, as you talked about, I'm not sure exactly what the street, but you and I have toured that street. It's on Daniel and Cocker Hill, where there's a creek and the wall was caving in. What street is that?
Ferguson Road.
Where are we on that project?
Okay, actually, we received their, I can't remember what percent complete, but we received their initial design recommendations to address the repairs and restoration of Ferguson Road. So the design was awarded, and now we're in the process of working with the engineers on improving those designs so that we can then move toward construction.
I think we're 6 months, 12 months away. What do you think?
I don't recall. I would say more on the 3 months being before we're done with the design, and then it would be a construction job that we would be looking, that we would be weighing in the FY20 CIP plan.
And then second question, I know we looked at sidewalks earlier. I know on Softwood, in the area of Softwood, I can't think of the other streets, there's very limited sidewalks. When is the last time we looked at a plan to have sidewalks in that area of Softwood?
So I don't want to say typically, given my 18 months, but so in FY18, as part of the FY18 budget, out of the one-time project fund, or is it the red light fund? I'm sorry, the red light fund, we received an allocation of $600,000 for sidewalks. The focus of that effort was on Greenstone Drive, Greenbrier Estates, and then moving along Daniel-Dale. And then we broke out that money actually into 2 years, and so the focus this year was to use those fundings for CDBG, because we then get reimbursed, and then sort of basically what we ended up doing is splitting the money out over 3 years to take advantage of that. We ended up, because you'll probably wonder, well, where's Greenbrier Estates right now? We ended up having to terminate the contractor that was doing the FY18 work. And so we're in the middle of re-awarding that job for this year, so it'll be CDBG plus the balance. But again, the focus of the sidewalk money for this year would be the, again, Greenbrier Estates, and then Fair Meadows area, which was the project that council approved for the CDBG. FY20 has yet to be determined. What we are trying to do, again, probably, I don't know, I don't want to pick a fiscal year yet because it's too new, but Chastity recently, and I believe Bart as well, went to the Safe Routes to School briefing. And so based on some input for that, we might be considering using some of the sidewalk money to help leverage some Safe Routes to School grants as well. But in terms of Softwood, we have not had that on our schedule. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Softwood is relatively unimproved in terms of it doesn't have curb and gutter. And typically for us, curb and gutter is one of the requirements really for the sidewalks, because in order for it to be in our right-of-way, the sidewalk usually would get in the way of the ditch, which is how we would convey water. So unless it's part of a larger plan to improve that street and start adding stormwater pipe, we're really limited on sidewalks. In certain areas, if subject to the width of the pavement, we might be able to line something off and sort of fabricate a lane or a small walkway by borrowing from the existing pavement. But that's about all we can do, and that typically is something that we can't do just by virtue of widths and accommodating the actual cars. But really, that's really the bottom line in terms of sidewalks in the areas that do not have curb and gutter.
Okay. Yeah, that area has went under watch for a while without having those necessary things for sidewalks. I would like for us to, at some point, at least let the council see, if they have not been in that area, really what that really looks like, to not have sidewalks other than just in one street in that whole particular area with kids?
There's, that condition exists throughout the city. And we've had other folks come in other areas where they were asking for sidewalks, which we would, love to at least consider to do, but a main constraint for the city is the curb and gutter requirement that we have.
Okay. And then my last comment here is, thank you very much. I know over the, even some of my predecessors have sat here, we all talked about Cockrell Hill and 67, particularly the Avenues of Stars when they was trying to get out. Over the years, for those that don't know, you put a walkway up, you put a lights up. Here recently, I asked you to look into a 2-lane turning off of Cockrell Hill into 67. That traffic on some mornings could line up from 67 back up to Daniel in some cases. And so, would you brief the council on where you are with what I've requested or asked you to do on, or as Kevin to look at, and having 2 right turns off of Cockrell Hill into 67 because of that traffic?
Yes, sir. After we received that request, we did go out and place our counters. Now, as you know, the intersection with Cockrell Hill and 67 is a TxDOT road. All that to say, we have to coordinate with them for everything. But we did go out and we put out our counters, and we turned them into the traffic engineer for consideration. And the bottom line is it is warranted. And so we do have a conceptual sketch of the revised layout. We did provide that to TxDOT. I'm in conversation with the area engineer. And in fact, he just asked me for the counts today. I sent them to him. So we are in conversation. The big thing for him would be he wants us to restripe it, but I think we can do that.
I need to intervene just here for
Yes,
a
sir.
quick
I'm
second. My apologies, Mr. Cooks. We're a little off point on the agenda. We're getting into individual items that have been working through staff, and this is a quarterly update. So getting into these kinds of details on the individual things is pulling us a little bit off point in terms of what we're doing for a quarterly update. So with your consent, we could get some time with Mr. Ramey individually to get these kinds of questions answered. I'd appreciate it.
Well, that'll be fine, Mayor, but I would ask if he would add that to his update, because that is something they're working on, and that is that particular turn, unless you're trying to go to work from that area.
I'm sure he can do that upon request.
So upon request, I'm asking if you would add that to one of your updates for us then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In closing this quarterly report, I want to commend you and your staff. As you know, I'm getting lots of emails and lots of phone calls from people about issues with our streets, and your entire department's response is commendable. I appreciate it. I'm proud to be the mayor of a city that has a director of public works and a staff that is so responsive. And it's, whenever I get an email and I get a phone call and I send it in to you and with a copy to Mr. Hugman, I have full confidence it's going to be acted upon promptly, and every single one of them are, and I know our citizens are appreciative. And I personally, on behalf of the council, do appreciate all that your staff is doing.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. With that, we are adjourned at 8:17.